In 5, 4, 3. And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. And you know how we do it Thursdays, the 9 o'clock hour. It is time for the MGoBlog Roundtable. A lot to try to dive into this week. But with it being a bye week, we can start off football. Lots to get into with my guys from MGoBlog, starting off with the man who started it all at the blog, Brian Cook. Brian, how are you this morning?
I'm well.
And Mr. Seth Fisher, how are you?
I don't have any quotes from dead Russian authors today, unfortunately. So I know Craig's going to be upset that I
am
in my bye week going over Eastern philosophy or any of the. But I did read a book about the Edmund Fitzgerald. So
okay, yeah. Johnny Bacon appreciates the plug.
Yeah.
Craig, give me some philosophy that would apply to the Tigers re-signing Tarek Skubal, or just find that over the next week and come back with that next week. How about that?
Oh, I could do it right now.
How is that possible?
I mean, here's the thing. Many years ago, I went into the Secretary of State's office, and since I don't see very well, I wasn't standing on the little footprints they have when you take your picture. I was off. So when they took my picture, I only had half a head. And so I got my driver's license in the mail with half a head, which I really like because A, it was probably the best picture of me ever. And B, people at the bank and other places where you wanted to see a driver's license thought it was very funny. And I thought it was very funny to have only half a head. Well, then I started getting letters from the Secretary of State saying, hey, you got to come back in, get a new picture, and give us that driver's license. And I just didn't answer, wouldn't respond. Finally, they got to be sort of threatening. And so I said, I thought it was inappropriate for the Secretary of State to make fun of people with my particular disability, that it wasn't, my fault that I was born with half a head, and that people with half a head shouldn't be subject to this trolling by the Secretary of State's office. They didn't think this was particularly funny, but it amused me. So this is sort of where the Tigers are at with Tarek Skubal. They sort of have half a head, and they're not gonna spend $350 to $400 million, which is what they're going to need to spend, I believe. And so they've got a choice. Do they trade him now and then risk the wrath of Tigers fans when they get meatballs in the trade, or do they let the season play out and hopefully have a good year and get nothing? You tell me, Sam. What's the right answer?
They're gonna play it out, get paid as much as possible, and do nothing, and hopefully win a World Series. But they're gonna do nothing, I think. So we shall see. Yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. Let's get some Michigan basketball, though. Let's get into some Michigan basketball because we didn't get a chance to dive deeply last week. You've now seen them in their second game, and it wound up being a nail biter, Brian, after them being up by, I think it was 13 at the half. But, you had some turnovers. You had them being ice cold from 3-point range. And it wound up being an overtime game. But we did see Adai Mara looking, I feel kind of like deja vu all over again, looking at a big fella for Michigan and coming via the transfer portal, feeling like, man, I think I might have undersold how good this guy is going to be.
I mean, that was the thing about Mara, is that you looked at his on-off numbers for UCLA last year, and it was insane that they weren't playing him more. And you're wondering, like, does he have conditioning issues? Like, is he injured? Like, then he was supposed to be sick. Whatever it was, he played 37 minutes out of the 45 and was clearly the best player on the floor. Crazy box score. And the craziest thing is that when he was on the floor, Wake Forest was 27% at the rim. 27% at the rim. Now, they still got to a point per possession because this is a team with a lot of transfers and freshmen, and they need to figure some things out. But their ceiling on defense is massive because of him. Remember when Michigan was playing Kansas with Trey Burke and Jeff Withey was out there, and you're just like, how are we ever going to score on this guy? And it took Trey Burke, a Naismith winner, to actually get it done. Like, that's what the situation is going to be. With Mara on the court, Michigan's going to win every game where they shoot reasonably from three and they have approximately equal shot volume. But shot volume has been the problem for Dusty May last year, and it was a problem for him in this game because Michigan got a 15% turnover rate on defense. That's about their season average. That's about 300th nationally. And while they out-rebounded Wake Forest by percentage, it was like 34 to 33, and that's with playing about a third of the game with three bigs on the court. Like, they have to figure that out because Mara needs to challenge every shot, which means he's going to be out of position on for defensive rebounds. And it feels like the whole reason you're putting Maize Johnson out there with Mara is because he needs to clean it up, and he just feels out of sorts. Like, he's used to playing the five. He's not used to checking guys on the perimeter. He's not used to boxing guys out who come from the perimeter. So there was an overtime putback where Johnson didn't box his guy out. And it's just like, all right, they got to figure this out. It feels like kind of early last year, I was like, this too big lineup isn't going to work. They can't play these guys together. That was wrong. I have the same feeling now about the three big lineup because it feels like both Yaxel and Johnson are miscast as a 3 and a 4, respectively. So to me, like, I want to see shooters out there because people are going to have to double Mara so that he can't put the ball on the floor. And then he's a great passer. And, there's one possession with the three bigs out there where Maize Johnson took a 3 in the flow of the offense. And I'm not like, I don't, that's, I would like someone else to be taking the 3 in the flow of the offense. So
some Roddy Gale instead, right?
Well, I mean, Gale had one of his threes was tall on the line, but he was 2 of 4 in this game, which is a really nice little bonus. And then everybody else was awful, but that's going to happen sometimes. So I can choose to look at this and be like, they won a game where they shot 16% from 3.
Right.
They won a game where they shot 16% from 3. And Wake Forest was like 38% from 2, and that's going to be an every game thing. Every game that Ademara is on the floor, opponents are just not going to be able to get to the rim. Like, it's just not going to happen for them. And that floater to end the game that went off the very top of the backboard because he had to get over Mara, build off that. And this is going to be a really good team.
Yeah, I last year at the time when we were having this conversation, I disagreed with Brian. I felt the two bigs was completely plausible, at least with these two bigs. Right now, I agree with him. It's hard for me to see, at least at the moment, how three bigs is going to work. I thought they were clunky offensively. I thought defensively, Brian's right on, spot on, and that both Maize and Yaxel felt uncomfortable helping to clean up, boxing out in a box out role, which may not be their typical mode, their typical histories, and it didn't seem to work very well. I have, it's hard to believe Michigan's going to continue to shoot 16% from 3. I don't think they will. I think they're a better shooting team than that. But, Tim McCormick in his podcast was completely depressed by this game, perhaps because he had been talking Michigan up so profoundly, and then saw this game where, they really did lay an egg against a team that I don't think is that good. I don't think Wake Forest is a likely NCAA team. I think they're at best mid-pack ACC. And so this game was kind of depressing because you're talking about a home game against just an okay team. And, it was a game you well could have lost. I think the three bigs are unlikely, but, we'll see how that goes. The one point that Brian made that's really good, Mara played 37 minutes And I hear all the time about how guys are going to get tired out, which I've discounted. And Mara was running harder at the end of the game than he was at the beginning of the game. And this is a 7-3 guy who's played all those minutes, and he's running the court. You know, so, and apparently that was the issue between him and the coach at UCLA last year. But he had Brian's great, phenomenal game by Mara. How much of that was created by playing three bigs, I don't know. In the end, I don't think much. I just think he is the deal. And when he's on the court, it's going to be very difficult, as Brian points out, for them to get to for other teams to get to the rim with any success. So,
yeah, I mean, we're all focused on playing huge because we saw the three bigs lineup. It was, you can't turn Johnson into a 3, and that's kind of what you have to do. Yaxel, the reason why he works is he's a 4. I thought it was a little of a weird game in order to judge that, just because who Wake Forest is. They're just a whole bunch of 6'7" guys from the 5 all the way down to the 2. So it's like the whole idea is no one has a second 6'7" guy. You need that guy on the wings. So now you're, if you don't use him up on Yaxel, then you're going to lose him somewhere else. Basketball is all about trade-offs, right? Now, can you turn Morris Johnson into a 3? I don't think so, right? He's not going to be a shooter. He's not. You could teach him how to box out, but that's not what you're doing with him here. That's not the point, right? That's not what he's here for. So, maybe like one of these guys is just not going to be what they want him to be. But there's so many other options on this team. I'm not that concerned, right? Like Brian mentioned, they shot 16% from 3. So they average that out. I don't think there was any problem with the guys who took shots in general, right? Like if you average that out to a 33% shooting team, they win this game by 12 points, is what they were expected to do. Mara just alters the game so much that, have Morris Johnson be the backup center. I don't think you need to have that much time with Yaxel at the 5. I think Yaxel is the one who's kind of a bit like, I don't see how what he does is really going to translate to how we've done this. How many times in this game did the ball get knocked loose and then Wake just recovered it, right? And that's because the way that you had to play with this is you have Mara down low and then everybody else chases their guys. And when you knock the ball loose that way, everybody's back is turned to the ball. So it's like no one knew where to go get it. I don't know if that's just part of how you play that way, or if that's something that they can practice and get used to each other and start looking for the ball to be loose. But my guess is it's not going to be as effective as you think it would be on a team that 50% of the time the other teams on offense are guys touching the ball.
Yeah, so I saw several things with Mara that I'm like, wow, if he can make this last, he is going to be in the conversation for Big Ten Player of the Year. I think the things that we can say for sure are going to last, he's going to be a shot blocker. He's going to be a presence when he is in the game on the defensive end, period. We know that is going to be the case even in 2 games. I think we also know he is going to be an elite passer. When we was talking to, you might have even been there, Craig, when I was talking to Akeem.
Yeah. We were together then. Yes. Yeah,
and he was like, he's a better passer than Danny. And I was like, hold up, man, come on, bro. Like you really want to make that practice? Like this is like the camera's on. He was like, I think he's a better passer. He's a different passer than Danny, but I think he's a better passer than Danny. I think that part translates. The part that I have to wait to see, like how is he gonna handle when teams start to bang him around? Is he going to be able to play through contact? Like watching him in practice, he's growing into that. He's working on that. Is that going to be a thing? That's what they're going to try to do to him, certainly in Big Ten play. Is he going to be able to play defense? You talk about staying on the floor. Is he going to be able to play defense without fouling? That's another thing that he did, I think, exceptionally well in this game. If those things translate and he can be an offensive presence, he says he can hit a 3 or 2. I don't know about that, but we'll see if he can play out on the perimeter and actually be a scoring threat, not to put it on the floor, but at least shoot it. Man, yeah, he is a player of the year candidate. Now, but I'm tempering, just like I'm tempering on the other side with Yaks, because I just, I can't get too carried away, especially when I'm watching him in this game, and I just felt like he's still favoring that hand. There was a finish that he attempted to lay up, and I'm like, man, dunk that. And he tried to lay it up, and I can't remember if they blocked it or what happened, but I just remember him not dunking the basketball. And then you talk about him not necessarily putting it on deck or going after loose balls. I think, and this is speculation on my part, that he's still probably favoring that hand a little bit, probably protecting it a little bit. I think that you're going to see him be that offensive force that they expect him, that we all expect him to be. Now, how that affects the three big lineup, I can't predict that. But certainly, Yaks, I think, is going to eventually round into the offensive force that we thought he would be coming in.
Well, I'm going to guess the three big lineup doesn't endure, that this is going to go into a time capsule and send out with the current. But we'll see. I mean, the coaches know more about that than me, but it just looked clunky to me. And and it may be that Yaks is hurt. The thing that's most bothersome in the end to me is how in the world do we get out rebounded by 5 on the offensive boards?
Because they missed every shot.
No,
no, seriously.
Or it could be right. I mean,
on a percentage basis, Michigan won the rebounding battle, but because they missed a million shots, they got out rebounded, quote unquote, by 5.
Yeah.
There's more opportunities for an offensive rebound when you miss a bunch of shots.
When you miss shots.
Now, I do agree that this Wake Forest lineup should not have been able to do that, but what you see consistently is that when Yaxel was a 5 last year, Morez was a 5 last year.
Yeah.
They're not boxing out the way they need to box out.
Right.
And that's just, and also 4 of those offensive rebounds were team rebounds, and those usually were coming off of blocks. So that's just if you block something into that's a team offensive rebound. So that's it's an issue. They're going to have to work on it, but it's not. I mean, for me, the issue really is the turnover rate. So 15% turnover rate is 300th nationally. They were terrible last year at forcing turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
They were terrible every year under Juwan Howard forcing turnovers. And you have a 7'3" guy. You have the depth that you need on your roster to be a very aggressive defense. There's really no one in this backcourt except Cadeau where it's okay, you got a couple fouls is a problem. So for me, their defense is just too passive. They need to get after it because they have the personnel, they have the depth, and they have the backup to be much more aggressive.
Yeah.
And you saw Gale getting after it in this game. How many times did they cut and all of a sudden he's on the other side of his guy? He got it, right? And I think that's why one of the reasons Gale is, looked like one of the best players on Michigan's roster in this game. Where I think preseason we were talking about him getting passed by Kason or McKinney, and he gets it. You can overplay when they're cutting around. You can overplay that because if they go into the lane, what's in the lane? A 7'4" behemoth.
Yeah. I think that Roddy Gale, his veteran presence late in that game was so clutch. It was so huge. You had to feel good for the guy because he was looked at from the fan base perspective as a liability. And I think probably at some point, Mike Boynton kind of alluded to it. He said, I kind of was, you kind of wonder when he makes decisions that he made last year. And I learned from watching him sticking with Roddy and still playing with Roddy, which kind of tells you that as a coaching staff, they were kind of like, hey, coach, maybe we shouldn't be letting him shoot these threes. But
this guy hasn't made a 3-pointer in an all Big Ten play.
But Dusty decided that there is a point I have a process. If he is adhering to that process and I'm seeing the results in practice, it will eventually translate to games and it help rehab or maintain the guy's confidence to the point now where you get to the postseason. He was a big deal. And certainly in this game, you needed that kind of presence, that veteran savvy, and then the ability to step up and take and make a big shot. as well, and came up big for them in this game. So that was huge. That was huge for Michigan.
I thought Roddy, played well in this game and was probably our second best player. I don't know how many minutes he had, but he did really come through in the overtime and at the end of the game. In the end, for me, that what's most disturbing is I think
is a little over the top there.
All right, maybe it's over the top. But this concerning is that they ended up with 14 more shot attempts after adjusting for free throws. I believe that's the number.
That can't be the number.
They had 22 more shots, and we had 16 more free throws. 22 minus 8 is 14.
So they had 5 more offensive rebounds. The gap is it's 9. And part of the reason that the gap is 9 is because they shot 38% from 2, and Michigan shot 65% from 2. So there's always going to be a natural shot gap when you're out shooting the opponent from 2, because they have more opportunities for offensive rebounds and you just have more buckets.
Yeah, that could be right. I'm looking at the total shots. Total shots, they had 22 more, but combined between 2 and 3, and then we had 16 more free throws. So it's 14 more functional shot attempts somehow in this game. And maybe it's just a one-off. It's weird. I know usually the shot attempts match up with the turnover and rebound differential. In this game, for whatever reason, it doesn't. But there are anomalies.
Because their first shot was so bad sometimes. I mean, there were a bunch of them where the ball goes off the heel and then comes back out to the perimeter, or the ball gets blocked and then it goes to the nearest player, who's going to be a Wake Forest guy who's following. Right there were just a lot of loose balls in this game, and that's because I go back to it. I think they don't keep this stat, but I would love to see the stat. Number of trips where the defense got their hands on the ball. It had to been 50% at least in this game. There was no time that Wake went towards the basket where a Michigan hand didn't touch the ball in some way. They were bouncing all over. Now they collected them. They collected most of them. They got their offensive rebounds sometimes. Box outs are a problem. Also, it's just there's randomness. When you have a lot of loose balls, you have a lot of shots affected so much that there's multiple balls going off the top of the backboard in this game, because the arc that you need to get over Mara is so darn high, right? Their shots sucked. Their first shots were terrible. Now, a lot of their second shots were putbacks or the rim, or kick it out to an open guy because, now the defense is discombobulated because there was a shot. Their first shots sucked. And that is, you start with that and you have a superpower.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a stat that you guys can look up analytics wise, but I just felt like, when their early offense wasn't working in the half court and they had to sort of get into a set and kind of figure that part out, that's where you see the identity not yet really be defined. They're really still figuring that part out. And you can see they always want to get out and run. They want to get it shot up in the first 10, 12 seconds. If they can live in that lane, game in and game out, that's where Dusty wants to be. But, they became really functional last year when they had to get in the half court. I understand why they aren't there yet with this team. It looked really discombobulated. It definitely looked discombobulated when Elliott wasn't on the floor, which leads to, if I wanted to extrapolate, if you want to call it a concern from this game, mine would be LJ. Now, it's LJ is just coming back from an injury. This is still early in the season, so you can't really say this is what it's going to be. But this is a player that I think they maybe don't need to make a leap, but it would be really good if he can make a leap, because that's the glaring hole to me is who's your other really good ball handler on this team who can really get downhill, create for himself or others. That would be LJ, and we saw him make some of the mistakes that we saw him make during his freshman year in this game.
Well, I mean, so he had a bad turnover in the second half. He had an almost turnover in the first half that Cheddar was able to rescue. But I mean, he got the line 8 times. He had 8 free throw attempts. He's getting to the spots on the court that are difficult to get to, and he's coming back from injury. He's still a work in progress, but I'm not as down on him as it seems like other people are. Like, he had a couple of assists in this game. Like, I'm not sure if the pass to Gale, where he got to the bucket after kind of a scramble situation, counted as an assist because Gale put it on the floor afterwards. But like, I think I saw something from him where I'm like, okay, this is progress.
Well, I'm not down on LJ at all. I mean, I'm still very hopeful that he is. I mean, remember when he came here, he didn't come here really as a one. He came here as a kind of combo guy that they thought maybe they could turn into an adequate one. And that's, I think, still where he's at. And he is a really good athlete. So I'm still hopeful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would hope that
you
you wouldn't be, or not you, but I would hope that people or fans wouldn't be down on anyone after the second game of the season, and certainly not after his first game back. But if
I would say down,
we're talking about takeaways from the game. What would be the thing that you wanted to see most that you didn't see? For me, it would be that.
I don't think it's down. I think the question is, people were kind of hoping that LJ would take that big sophomore leap. He was the one who could have the most to go from last year to this year. And when we saw what we're seeing so far, right? It's only 2 games. It's only been 1 game. That he hasn't really kind of developed that spatial awareness yet. This is what Matt D was talking about with him, where he just knows where everybody is on the court and kind of just knows where everything is going on. It's just, I think that we were hoping he would develop into a point guard. And when you look at Dusty's history with those guys, this is what he was good at, right? He would recruit guards and who were ranked like in the low 3 stars, and then develop them. And I think that LJ, 1 game doesn't really tell us what we got out of him. I think that
I agree with that.
To speak for people who are down on him, they're saying that they thought he was going to come in and be a taller point guard. And
this is a weird conversation to be having after the guy had like 8 points on 7 shooting possessions, 2 assists, 1 turnover, and an offensive rebound in 14 minutes. Like, Will Cheddar put up a donut basically. Right? Like, he had 0 rebounds. He didn't score a point. He had a turnover. Like, he had a couple of gritty plays, but he was not good out there. Like, that's kind of the issue for me in terms of like guys who I thought I don't necessarily see a place for him if he's going to try to play the 3, because he was already a real defensive weak spot last year when he was a switching 4. And if you're going to put him out there with like Yaxel or even Morris Johnson and expect him to switch and keep up with wings, I just don't see that happening.
Well, I agree with you there. That, I mean, I think that with Will, the issue is defense. I mean, he's an excellent 3-point spot up 3-point shooter if you can get him those shots, and he's not a liability on offense at all. But defensively, it's a problem. It's a problem, particularly when you're playing a bigger lineup where he has to match down with smaller, quicker players.
All right, we need to squeeze in a break. Let's do that now, and we will come back on the other side. More to get into. What do you think of this Northwestern matchup, for instance, on the football side of things? So much more to break down. MGoBlog Roundtable here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTK, online at thebig1050.com.
Clear on the radio.
So the thing I was saying on LJ is that every point he got that I can remember, other than the assist, was he got in the lane, and that's what he was doing last year, right? That guy can go get you in the lane, he can get some fouls, get some free throws. It was weird, man. After the first half, I'm like, these guys are all going to foul out. They're all going to be playing with foul, And then the second half, Wake didn't let up. they were just as physical and aggressive, and I don't think it was a ref game at all. I think if anything, Michigan got some calls in that game. So I don't want to put it that way. It's just
there was one like very blatant charge that Cadeau committed that they called.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking about
whoa.
right now. Yeah.
Like that should have been turnover 6 for him. It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I jumped in our Slack at that moment. And I was like, when's the last time Michigan got a call like that?
Yeah, you guys, people complaining in the chat about discussions after 2 games. You can't make any. You don't, I think, draw any broad conclusions, good or bad, after 2 games. But if you want to talk about what are you looking for, what are you optimistic about after 2 games, what do you think is going to translate? There's that, and then there's what are the things that concern you. There's that, and you see what happens after that.
Yeah, let me just wrap that point with LJ. Just to wrap the point with LJ, like if his superpower is he gets down in the lane, and the rest of the team is made out of bigs, it's like, okay, one more guy in the lane. Like what do we have on the perimeter at that point? But that's not a huge complaint. It's just like I'm saying that's kind of why the feel for LJ is not meeting the box score.
It was only 1 game.
It
was only one game for him.
Event.
Only 2 games for Yaks.
Yeah.
And same thing for Adai. Couple games. And so 2 games.
I'm sorry, Sam. Adai is real. Okay. The body control he had to defend those passes, I thought one of the fouls that he had was really weak, and he that guy can, and if he can play 30 minutes a game, oh my God, Sam. Oh my God.
I agree.
I mean, have you guys seen Adai put up a collection of stats through 2 games that nobody in college or the pros have done since Tim Duncan through 2 games? It's only 2 games, but no other college or pro guy has done it since Tim Duncan in 03-04. And rebounds, blocks, and all that combined.
The thing about Adai is this isn't new. Like he did this last year for UCLA.
Yeah, he just didn't have the minutes.
And like I don't know what was the deal there, but like I'm looking up his on-off last year for UCLA. It's a 14-point difference at the rim for Mara. Like that's his defensive impact.
Yes, Steve, Daniel and I are going to go at it on dimes. He tried to tell me that Luka trade was a good trade. I said it was the worst trade known to man when it happened. And what just happened? Daniel, what just happened? I'm confused. I guess I'm not confused. I'm not confused by what happened. It is the abysmal trade that I thought it was when it happened at that time. My man, you pulled his basketball card on me, telling me, I was like, come on, man. 26-year-old superstar in the prime of his career.
Back in about 30 seconds, guys.
Come on, man. Come on, D. That's not a lie. That's not a lie. That's not a lie. Anyway.
To Brian's point also,
back in 10 seconds, guys.
The stats haven't kept up. He has 15 blocks in 2 games. He's got credit for 10. So,
and we're back on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA online at the big1050.com. Before we get back to the MGoBlog Roundtable, folks, I want to tell you about Brighton Ford, where your next adventure begins. Ready to take the wheel of your dream Ford? Well, at Brighton Ford, it's more than just buying a car. It's stepping into a lifestyle of power, performance, and possibility. Feel the thrill, take it for a spin, and drive it home today. Experience the Brighton Ford excellence, or experience the Brighton Ford difference, where excitement meets excellence. If you're leasing a car already, make the switch seamlessly. Brighton Ford will pick up your current lease and deliver your new Ford right to your doorstep. No hassle, no stress. And for even more convenience, their trained technicians can now come to your home or workplace with their service vehicles equipped to handle many routine maintenance services on site. All you have to do is call 1-800-NEW-FORD and get on board with Brighton Ford. All right. Wrigley Field. You guys ever been there? Oh, man, it's a spiritual experience.
For a couple Cubs games. I was actually at the Sammy Sosa Cork-Bat game.
Well, Michigan football will be on that field, taking on a much better Northwestern team than I thought it was going to be heading into the season. So handicap it for me, Brian Cook, coming off the break. How are you feeling about this game?
I mean, it's going to be a low-scoring game. Like, they have a very excellent defense. They shut out that Purdue team that can move the ball up and down the field. They're not great, obviously, but they've been very good on defense. Preston Stone is interception prone, and Griffin Wild is not going to be the guy who's going to separate from Jair Hill. So I just have a hard time seeing them move the ball very much. So I think it's going to be like Iowa versus Iowa. And then, I think Jordan Marshall is going to be a big difference in this game because he's the kind of guy who, they just started running a duo at the end of that game and he'd get hit 2 yards downfield and it'd be 5 yards every time. So I just think Michigan's going to wear him down over the course of the game. And, it'll be competitive and I think it'll be a good game, but Michigan should pull away in the end.
Feels right to me. I mean, Northwestern's going to run duo themselves. They run a lot of duo, outside zone, throw the ball short. That. So I agree with what Brian's just said. My analytical stuff has Michigan winning by 9 points. Feels rightish. But I agree with Sam that Northwestern's I think they're a lot better than most Michigan fans think. And I think they're reasonably well coached too. I think they've done a good job there. So this team is a solid, good team, and Michigan can't go in and turn it over and make mistakes and expect to win.
Yeah, the weird thing about Northwestern is that this is the team that actually Michigan could run 3 DTs against, because the best thing that they have going for them is when they put both tight. They have 3 tight ends who I think are better than all of their receivers except for Griffin Wild. So they have, and so they're best when they can put out Hunter Welching and Lawson Albright, and I forget the third guy's name, but they want to just kind of like push you down the field slowly. I think that their offensive line is there are a lot of the guys that played last year. Caleb Tiernan, you remember, Marcus Lewis. He's played. Yeah, I know. We're still mad we can't get the guy. But that guy loves Northwestern. Apparently, I ran into his old coach, and he was just like, "Yeah, he loved Northwestern from the get go. He went there and fell in love. He's just that's who he is. I'm sorry we can't get Caleb Tiernan. But yeah, the guys who played last year because they were injured last year, and so their starters didn't get to start. So we're seeing some of the same guys who played us last year, and they just got pushed around by Michigan. They just didn't have the strength. And I think that when you see what Northwestern's been able to do over the course of the Big Ten season, when they can get movement in duo, they do well. Can they get movement on Rayshon Benny? Probably not. Can they get movement on Trey Pierce? Probably not. Can they get movement on Damon Payne? Probably not. And then if you get Roller back and Houston back and you get our linebackers get to play that they want to play, I think that we've forgotten how good Michigan's defense can play when they just go ahead and get to do their stuff. Because they've been getting injured, because we had, we had the wink game in USC. I don't think we've gotten to see this defense do the things that they do. And this game is going to be them doing the thing that they do. Jair Hill shut down Griffin Wild. Go 3 DTs if they want to put 2 tight ends on the field. They can do it this game. It's not like they're going to get spread out like they were when you're playing teams whose tight ends are not really blockers. These tight ends are blockers.
So you agree with Brian, Iowa versus Iowa?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not impressed with Preston Stone at all. I don't think that Bryce Underwood passing into an old-fashioned Lloyd Carr Hankwitz quarter system is really going to be that successful. This is what they give you. They give you a bunch of underneath stuff, and I think Michigan's running game is going to be able to get some things. But they're going to rotate on the line. They're going to be a Northwestern defense. It's going to be kind of sloggy, but it'll be a nice day. We'll get a couple plays, and Jordan Marshall. If you want to see which one of these teams can just Iowa out a game, give me the team with Michigan's offensive line and Jordan Marshall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you look back at last year. Obviously, the offense really got rolling in this game. One of the things that was really effective, they RPO'd this team. I think that we'll see that come back in this game to a larger degree than we saw them do it in the Purdue game. I think it'll get back to normal level, which is, Chip had been calling 16, 17 a game. I think they will live in that world. And I think that will be a good barometer for where Bryce is, for where Bryce is in terms of how he's seeing things and how he's feeling things in this road matchup, because when he's on, that's his bread and butter. It's his bread and butter play. Like, he can RPO really, really well. We've seen that not be the case as much in the prior 2 games that he played. He was often the ones against the Michigan State game, and they just didn't call as many against Purdue. So I'll be looking very closely at that in this game.
Sorry.
No, a question for you guys. What linebackers are back? Is Rolder back? I think Sullivan is probably back, right? But is Rolder, Barham, are those guys back for this week? Do we know?
They said that. I think I think Sharon gave kind of his cloudy reports, but it sounded like Rolder's back before Sullivan, I think, and Barham was going to be fine. Barham was like he tried to go last week and couldn't, but that was 2 weeks ago. They got a bye, right? They got some time to get better. I want to get back to that RPO thing though.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That RPO thing, yeah. No, that's because I was going to say that's the way to attack these guys. Gardner Wallace is one of their safeties. They can't change out their safeties. They've tried to put a third safety on the field, and every time they do, they're so terrible that they have to pull that guy. They've tried like several different versions. There's one guy named John Stevens, and oh my God, if you see number 29 out there, go after him. So they're stuck with their 2 safeties, and one of them is more of a hybrid space player. So that's why they're playing that quarter system, because then that guy gets to be your hybrid guy, and he gets to kind of come in against the run. You RPO Gardner Wallace. He's a 6'4", 220, gangly, not the fastest dude. You get him stepping down, or you get him at 7 yards, and you want to run someone by him. I don't know how much Michigan wants to throw downfield or wants to throw to Samaj Morgan downfield and test that kind of thing. That's there, but I think that Andrew Marsh deep shot might be the winning points in this game, just because they can't play with Michigan if Michigan has a deep throw. I just don't know if they want to do that to them. But what you can do when you have those matchups is RPO. You can force him to sit back because he can't overplay, right? He's going to get thrown behind him, or you throw so you might see like an RPO slant that hits to Samaj for a long play or to Marsh for a long play. That's the kind of thing where you could really break these guys.
Yeah, it's a great thing that you bring. I wasn't going to talk about this point, but it made me think of, as much as I think they will be able to slug this team, and Jordan Marshall was going to be Jordan Marshall. And Jordan Marshall, he can hit a home run, but the explosive that you get from this offense, that you can say, hey, where is our guy who's going to go 60 or 70 if he gets take a short play, a seemingly short play, and go to distance, which any offense needs it, but certainly this offense, because it can make up for a lot, right? Where is that going to come from in the absence of Justice Haynes? And I look around, and Marsh seems like the guy. He seems like the guy. If you're going to get that quotient, that element, even though we haven't quite seen as many examples of it, he hasn't played as much. And you need Bryce, obviously, to participate in that. He's the guy that I look to as that blink of an eye guy that can maybe give you that explosive element, not taking away Jordan Marshall's ability to hit a home run here or there. So, but I was going to say, what do you guys think of going back to Barham real quick before we get out of here? Since they have sort of emphasized hey, we got to play responsibility football. Yeah, and I asked Vance about this. It feels like it's kind of robbed him some of his aggression. Now, he was out in the first play of the last game, so we're really looking at a game and a play sample space. But it just hasn't felt like didn't feel like in that time he was, he was pinning his ears back quite as much. Seems like a good and a bad thing. I'm hoping that they can find a happy medium, or he can find a happy medium coming off of this bye.
Yeah, I like him better at linebacker, to be honest. Especially if your injuries are consistent, because Troy Bowles is not really there yet. Going down to the freshman is not very valuable. And when Barham was really affecting things last year, and he scored well for me last year, because when he blitzes, you have to spend a guard on him, right? You can block Ernest Hausman with a running back, right? There's a lot of things I love about Hausman, but you can block him with a running back. You can definitely block Bowles with a running back. You cannot block bar him with a running back. And that changes how they have to set. And because they have to set a certain way, now we can guess how they're going to set, and we can play our games. And Wink actually can call some cool blitzes because you know what they're going to do because they don't have another option. So I think there was one time that USC tried to block him with a running back, and then they left it. They had other things that worked. But that was like the one play where USC was just like, oh, we can't do this, right? That is that's a better use for him than – yeah, the pass rush, if they just play their starters, they're fine. Derek Moore can play. DJ Guy can play. Don't go past those two guys.
I'm about to do something very unfair. Do something very unfair to you guys. I apologize. We'll spend more time on it next week. But in 60 seconds apiece, as we get out of here, do you really think the Big Ten would have the gall to try to move forward, really actually move forward to the vote on this private equity deal without Michigan?
I wouldn't put it past Tony Petitti to try it.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's a moron. The guy is I can't say the words I want to say on the radio. I mean, so they put out this pressure attempt saying, oh, Michigan and USC, you got to get on board. And you know what? I really respect what Jordan Acker had to say. I respect what Mark Bernstein had to say. It's a payday loan. Michigan doesn't need this. Private equity doesn't get involved out of the goodness of their hearts. They're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Right? They're not like, oh yeah, we're gonna do you guys a solid. You know who Dave Brandon worked for after he left Michigan? Private equity. So, I mean, to me, if they go through with this, it's the end of the Big Ten. Like, Michigan will leave when the grant of rights is up, and they should, because I don't want to be a part of the league that's this stupid. They're selling part of the league, and they're trying to sell out part of Michigan from under Michigan, and Michigan has no interest in that. And frankly, I'm not interested in Northwestern or Purdue or even Indiana. I don't care anymore. Like when it was a 10-team league, when it was a 12-team league.
Hello.
But this league died when Jim Delaney. Sorry, I'm taking up your time, guys.
No, you can have my minute because you're doing so well. You're like Belushi. You're on
I
a
remember
roll.
Ira came up to me at a hockey game and said that Michigan was adding Rutgers and Maryland to the Big Ten, and I was horrified. And what have we gotten from those two programs since they entered the league? Nothing. Nothing. I don't want to ever see those teams again. I'm Team Super League. Screw all of these programs. We're out.
Join the club. Welcome to the party, Brian Cook.
Hallelujah,
damn it.
I'm 100% with what Brian just said, and I want to give the Regents Bernstein and Acker major props. USC wants out. I got a USC.
We got to go. But I agree.
Time.
This kills the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They killed the Big Ten. This is the end. That's it.
All right. Well, you got to get out of here, folks. Enjoy the game, Michigan Northwestern. We'll be back with you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider, though, on the Big 1050 WT.